Hello and welcome back. 2 days ago, I watched this new Pixar film. It's called Elio, Elio. It's a pretty good film, in my opinion. It may not be the best Pixar film of all time, but I found it especially endearing and heartwarming. I liked it very much. If I could give it a 10 out of 10, then I would. In particular, because I related and resonated with the main character in so many ways. Of course, this isn't a movie review video, and I won't spoil the film for those of you planning on watching it yourselves. But basically, the main character has been having difficulty fitting in all his life. He always felt out of place. So much so that because he felt that he didn't belong anywhere in this world on Earth, he wanted to just be abducted by aliens, hoping and believing that he will be accepted and he will fit in somewhere else out there in another planet. Perhaps many of us, all our lives, and I believe myself included, feel that we never really quite fit in all our lives. Growing up, yes, I did have many friends, but none whom I would particularly call my gang, my brothers. I had a lot of acquaintances, a lot of clubs in grade school and high school, but none which I would particularly refer to as my turf. I always felt different, that the way I thought about things, often the way I behaved, my behavior, my personality, I felt like my totality as a person just really didn't quite fit in anywhere and with any particular group of people. And that was also particularly the case with the main character in this new Pixar film. Up to now, I'm already an adult, clearly, in my 30s. Oftentimes, I still feel and find myself alone, with difficulty relating to other people. I often feel that the way I feel and the way I think just aren't exactly attuned or in jive with what would be considered commonplace, what would be considered average or normal. I always felt different. And perhaps many of you listening may also feel the same way. Out of place, unique to a fault, never really finding your place. But I would like to respond to that twofold, with 2 points. The first, and hopefully you've also heard this from other people, perhaps in another video, hopefully from your friends, your family. But if you haven't, it's okay. let me be the first, therefore, to tell you then, what if there's nothing wrong with standing out, with being different? What if it's perfectly all right? It's perfectly normal to not be normal. So what if you think different, if you act different? As long as you're not hurting anybody, who cares? Who cares? If you never really quite fit in anywhere. Maybe you were meant to stand out and not really fit in. In a separate video, I tangentially actually tackled this subject by saying that majority of us, most of us here in our modern consumerist society, seem to have been brainwashed that we must conform to a 9-to-5 life. We have to be molded into being obedient, non-asking employees. We have to be good employees. We have to be good workers. Workers for whom? For those who own the means of production. We have to be good people, good boys and good little girls for our bosses. And I said in those videos that if that is what it means to be normal, then count me out. I'm not playing that game. But I digress. Moving on. Perhaps you, me, perhaps we were never meant to be considered normal after all. Maybe we have to stand out so that other people who maybe are too afraid, too brainwashed, I don't really want to use that term just yet, too indoctrinated to speak out. Maybe we have to be the outliers for them. Maybe we have to be out of place and unique for them, for these people. What's wrong with being different? And as an example, if historically, if ever since, if physical laborers, if manual laborers, if teachers were paid as high as lawyers, as doctors were, then that would be considered normal. Then physical labor and teaching would be considered high-paying jobs. That would be considered normal. If clothes weren't invented, then wearing clothes would be considered abnormal. Because what we consider normal, ordinary, commonplace, is essentially simply what society, what the majority dictates. And we know, time and again, that just because the majority say it has to be done, doesn't mean that it's the right thing, that it's the truth, that it's the good thing. And my second and consequential point to the first, that maybe there's nothing wrong with standing out, is that one day or another, you'll realize that eventually you will have to make decisions for yourself. You will have to stand up for yourself eventually. Whose expectations are you really living up to? Whose expectations are you fulfilling? There's a German philosopher, Martin Heidegger. He says that our decisions, our choices in life, are always a product of our own beliefs, our own decisions. And because we are not an island, because we are intrinsically social beings, they are also secondly influenced by other people, by our contexts, by our families, by our upbringing, by our friends, our education, and so on. But these choices, these decisions, we have to own them. We have to appropriate them and declare that they are ours. For these decisions to be considered genuinely our decisions. For example, for many of us in the medical field, though I'm not a part of this cohort, many of my medical colleagues come from a heritage of doctors. They come from a family of doctors. And it's fine. It doesn't necessarily mean that they became doctors because their parents are doctors. Although, as you know, some doctors do end up becoming doctors because of filial pressure and so on. But many of my colleagues decided themselves that even if they come from a lineage, a heritage of doctors, they themselves decided that they want to become doctors regardless of their heritage. Therefore, their decision is theirs. They owned it. They owned their decision. And one day, you'll have to make a choice and accept your own uniqueness. You have to accept your own weirdness, your own out of placeness. Because if you don't, nobody else will. And you'll forever live a life of regret if you don't accept yourself. So maybe there's nothing wrong with being different after all. Thank you very much for staying until the end of today's Rant Fest, and I wish you all the best. I'll see you again in our next video. Thank you.